Hey guys, I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of being an au pair in Japan. I tried to focus on the difference between being an au pair in Japan and, for example, Europe, because I think there's a big difference between doing it in Japan and, for example, Europe or USA or Australia, New Zealand. So yeah, let's begin with the video. The first one, you will actually hear this in every au pair video if I'm honest, is experiencing a new culture and living in a different country. I mean, how cool is that? You can live in a completely different country for at least a year. Now, the downside of being an au pair in Japan is not a lot of au pairs are here in Japan, so you won't find as many friends or au pair friends here in Japan as, for example, in England or anywhere in Europe. The concept is not so well known here in Japan, and it is quite difficult to become an au pair here because there are not a lot of families, so it can happen that you become quite lonely. Also, Japan is huge, so maybe the other au pairs live somewhere in the north and you live down in the south or just very far away, so it's definitely more difficult to find au pair friends here in Japan than compared to other countries. It is not impossible to find au pair friends here though. You just have to find some, for example, Facebook groups with foreigners in Japan and write down, hey, I'm an au pair in Japan, I live in Yokohama or Tokyo, wherever you live. Maybe you can find some friends. I found my friends like this. I found one friend like this, and then she introduced me to her pair friends, and then it became more and more, but it's definitely not as much as in other countries. Another plus of being an au pair in Japan is, I think it is a valuable experience and very good in your resume. I feel trying to explain what I mean. English is so hard. What I want to say is that it's pretty rare for people to do a gap year or stay abroad in a country like Japan. Usually most people do an au pair year in Europe, US, Australia or New Zealand. Don't get me wrong, I never wanted to come to Japan in the first place, if I'm honest. I tried to get a working holiday visa for New Zealand for at least 2 years. I always wanted to go to New Zealand. But maybe Japan will stand out a little more in your resume and look more unique. But in the end, it comes down for which job you apply to afterwards anyway. My intention is not to down-talk other countries. I just think that since it's so rare to do a gap year in Japan, it will maybe pop out a little bit more in your resume. If you're a citizen of the EU, you don't need a visa for being an au pair. I talked to my friends, they did au pair in other countries in Europe, and they said they did not need a visa for it. They could have done this for maybe 2 or 3 years at one family. I didn't know that actually, because if you want to come to Japan, you need a visa, you need a working holiday visa, and you can only do it for 1 year. So yeah, this is definitely a downside, because if you do it in Europe and you're a European citizen, you can do it more or less as long as you want to, and that's quite cool if I'm honest. I didn't know that at all, and I wish I had this in Japan too, but you can't have everything. Immigration law is super strict here in Japan. There are only 2 visas that you can get for doing this kind of stuff. For example, the first one is working holiday visa, and my friend is actually here on a sponsorship visa. I think it's something called like this. However, you can only get the sponsorship visa when your host family is also foreign. For example, my family, they cannot give me a sponsorship visa because they're Japanese, and this sponsorship visa is for foreigners that work in Japan, and they need something like a nanny or a housekeeper that is also foreign. So my French friend is working for a French family here in Japan, and she can stay as long as she wants here in Japan with this visa. That's so cool. However, she's not allowed to have a different job, so she's only allowed to work for this family, and she cannot do any other part-time job. Now, the plus side again, it is a very cheap way in order to stay in a different country. However, you won't be paid so much. Like, I think I get 10,000 yen a week. It's not so much. However, my family pays for my phone and for most of my groceries, but I like to buy more groceries, so I buy a lot of groceries by myself too. I spend a lot of my money actually on train costs, which sucks, and it makes me so unmotivated to go anywhere here in Japan because everything is just so expensive. I definitely recommend doing some part-time jobs here in Japan when you have the time. For example, I teach English and German, and I also do some other babysitting, so without those other jobs I won't be able to do and buy as much as I want here. However, it is still a very cheap way in order to stay and live in Japan for at least a year. Japan is not really a country where people speak English, so there is a huge language barrier, especially if you don't speak any Japanese. It can be quite frustrating when really nobody can speak English. You're not able to speak Japanese as well. I definitely recommend going to a language school or language meetups and exchanges. You don't really have to go to a language school that costs so much money. There are so many different ways in order to learn a language here, and also self-study. My god, please do some self-study. I really think that when you come to a different country you should learn the language, because otherwise I think the time is a bit wasted. So I study a lot of Japanese here. I don't have so much time to study and I'm not so smart, so it takes me quite long to study Japanese. So the plus is you can attend some free language schools. I go to a, how to say, like a lounge, a Kohoku International Lounge, something like this. It is like a community center and it's so cute because they have a lot of workshops. I join their language classes on Monday and Friday. It's run by volunteers, so I have 2 hours of private lesson just with one other girl. She's my friend and we have the lessons together. It's run by volunteers and those volunteers are retired, so it's old people and I love old people. They're so cute because they're so motivated, and they also give me papers and documents that they prepare by themselves, and they scan some stuff, and I even make homework by myself. So I just write some things down and I give it to them and then they check it for me, and it only costs 100 yen. Like I pay for 2 hours private lesson of 100 yen, which is absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. We also have some field trips sometimes and we don't have to pay anything for it. We even are provided with food sometimes, and I love this school. Now even if you plan coming here as an au pair, it's difficult because not a lot of Japanese families are doing it. Most of them are foreigners. I talked about it so many times I think already, but please keep this in mind. It's very difficult to find a Japanese family. Most of them are foreigners. However, when you find a Japanese family, you can experience Japanese food and traditions at home. It's like you really feel part of it. I mean, you can also experience this stuff when you live with a foreign family. I don't know how it is with a foreign family because mine is Japanese, so. Now this one is a bit personal. I think it is very exhausting to always meet new people and always start at zero. It's exhausting. I love meeting new people, I love talking to new people, I love listening to their stories and making connections. I love it, but at some point you just want to hang out with your friends that you already know since years, and you already know your boundaries. It's just so exhausting because you always have to start at zero with a small talk and getting to know each other and figuring out limits, you know what I mean? And sometimes I just want to be 100% myself. Like I just want to meet my old friends and do something with my friends that I already know since years, and I know I can be 100% myself. Yeah, this is what I miss sometimes. So to all of my friends that are watching this, I love you and I miss you, and I appreciate it very much that you're my friends. And okay, anyway, this downside is also a plus side because you meet new people, you can hear new stories, you can share your own story and make meaningful or non-meaningful connections. I don't know, but it's nice meeting new people. Maybe not all of them become your friends, but it's just nice talking to people. For example, I went to some trips and I just saw an old lady and we talked about stuff, and then she even, oh wait, I have it here, and I got this present. It's so nice, like she just gave it to me just randomly. Old people in Japan, they always give you random presents. It actually makes me really motivated to study Japanese because I really want to talk to people in Japanese. I want to talk to my host family's family. Yeah, I really want to have a conversation with them because back then when I saw them for the first time, it was not very good. Another downside here in Japan is that you're very much on your own because there's no organization here that can support you when you have help and trouble or when you need a new family. So you're quite on your own. It's maybe a good experience because you're on your own, so nobody can support you. So it's maybe the hard way when you have a problem and need help. You're able to, or you have the opportunity to solve it by yourself, and if you solved it, then it's a good experience. For example, I have quite a few friends that hated or disliked their family and they wanted to change their family, and it was a bit stressful for them, but they just looked for foreigners in Japan Facebook groups and wrote down, hey, I'm an au pair in Japan, does anybody need an au pair? Lucky enough, they got a lot of response, and now they have a new family in Chiba. If you're a bit scared of not having support, then maybe it can be a bit difficult. If you go to America or Europe, a lot of organizations, like there's so many organizations that can help you. But in Japan, what I often do is I write down my questions on Facebook groups and I get immediately answers, like for everything, and they're just very helpful, those people. I think you just have to build a big community and find a lot of au pair friends, join a lot of events, join lots of groups. Also, if you have Instagram, if you're on social media, definitely tag your photos with life in Japan or au pair in Japan and search through those tags. Like, you can maybe find some future friends on those tags. That is exactly why I'm doing those kind of videos, because I know it's difficult to become an au pair in Japan, and it's maybe scary because there's zero content on being an au pair here in Japan. So I hope that this video and all my other videos that I uploaded and will upload is a bit helpful. Anyway, I hope this video helped you. If you have some questions, please leave them down in the comment section. Some of you actually wrote me Instagram messages, which is okay too, but maybe if you write them down in the comment section, other people can read them too, especially when they're not personal, like a common question. Then you can write them down in the comment section and I can answer them and other people can read it as well. So that is quite convenient. Bye bye!